Welcome to Common Sense Living Podcast, where I'm going to add common sense and value to your life because I have an exceptional guest today. See if I pronounce his name correctly, Dr. Van Thielen. And just a bit about him because there's a whole lot. So Dr. Mike Van Thielen is the medical director at ClarigenZ Health, an innovative medical company with a new pill providing all the benefits of Adderall without any of the harmful side effects. He is also a treating physician for Boston Neuro Pain and Psych Centers, helping tens of thousands of patients with chronic pain and mental health conditions. Dr. Mike loves to give back to the community and has managed to start funding one of the paralyzed veterans in urgent need of stem cell therapy and helps veterans pro bono with their health challenges. He's a best-selling author. His latest book is the IZOD Method, Unleash Your Superpower. He's a TEDx speaker and keynote inspirational speaker who shared the stage with celebrities. Over 3 decades involvement with best optimal health practices, anti-aging and regenerative medicine, sports performance, nutrition and supplementation, and biohacking strategies. Assistant coach and therapist for the Belgian Olympic swim team for the Olympic Games in Atlanta. An entrepreneur with a proven track record of establishing and developing successful business operations. And he's also featured on the cover of Biohackers magazine, issue 22, and is an executive contributor for Brains magazine. He was presented with the CREA Global Awards 2023 honoree in recognition of his creative and innovative ideas, adaptability in business, and for his contributions to sustainability and mental health projects. Dr. Mike's you'll correct me, method has been featured on Fox, ABC, NBC, Google News, and over 300 other channels. So with all that for an intro, I am honored to host you today, and I'm going to give you the floor. You can talk about whatever you want, Doctor.
Yes, and thanks for introduction. That's quite a mouthful.
Yes, quite the credentials.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about whatever you like to talk about, but I think, the way we started, before COVID, I was the CEO of a stem cell company, and we were treating a lot of athletes, including heavyweight champion boxers, NFL players, but also, your average patient with neuropathy, knee pain, etc. But then COVID came, of course, and we had to close the doors because we were, quote unquote, non-essential.
Yeah.
So that's when I have to kind of took the time to look at myself and see what my superpowers were and what my passions and what my purpose was. And while I was doing that and really not working much, a colleague friend of mine basically called up and says, hey, we need some help pre-screening calls for medical marijuana because in the state of Florida, it's legal, right? And I said, sure, whatever, I have time, I'll help out. But it was great because I ended up talking to hundreds of people on a weekly basis, people with stress, anxiety, depression, ADHD, PTSD, and all those types of things. And of course, there's therapists out there and there's drugs out there. But when I talked to them, there really was a common underlying cause, in my opinion. And that was that a lot of these people did not have any purpose in life, meaning, they're working day in, day out. They're trying to manage their finances, their life. They're overwhelmed. They're always putting out fires. And so when I put myself in their shoes, if you don't know what tomorrow brings, financially or otherwise, or next week or next month, I would be pretty anxious. I would be pretty, fearful and worrying about the future. And so that translates into anxiety, depression, PTSD, and those mental conditions, right? And so therapy and drugs at that stage wouldn't help. So in my latest book, the IZOD Method, I really don't talk just about health because my first 7 books, it's just health related. So this book, I go a little bit further because yes, we can help with anxiety, depression, etc. But if we don't address the underlying cause, it's only going to be masking the symptoms, which is what conventional medicine always does. And so I really, in this latest book, the IZOD Method, IZOD stands for In the Zone, On Demand. We talk about focus, productivity, freeing up valuable time, your purpose, and upgrading the body and the mind. So upgrading body and mind is biohacking. That's what the book is about. But I really decided to expand it to include purpose in life because, we're born and we're thrown in this society. And suddenly we're pushed in certain directions, right? They want you to go to school, then to college, and then you need to work for somebody till you retire, and then there's the golden years which usually never come. Or your parents and your teachers push you in a certain direction, because if dad's a lawyer, he probably wants you to go to law school. If mom's a physician or a doctor, they probably want you to go to med school. So, with my mentees or my clients, I really kind of make them pause and look in the mirror and ask, what is it that you want, what you're passionate about? And so many times it's not what they're doing. They're just making ends meet. They're paying the bills. They're being responsible. But ultimately, it seems like we're all modern slaves. We don't have the shackles on us, but they give us enough comforts that we stay the course or their course, but we're not living our life. And so they create, people heard about this. What they created for us is this comfort zone. We go work, we make everybody else rich, and we get to go online and we get to watch TV and relax, or we get to watch a sports game. And so it's almost like, reminds me of Rome, right? Bread and games. So we're being entertained, but they don't want us to, be extraordinary and grow and learn and those types of things, because it requires us to get out of that comfort zone. And that's fearful for most people. And so today I teach people more about the comfort zone, because the more you know about the comfort zone and leaving the comfort zone, and the more you prepare to do it, the more likely you're going to take that step and be successful, because it's outside of the comfort zone that we grow, that we discover our purpose, that we can be extraordinary, and that we can unleash those superpowers. So, today my superpower is to help other people unleash their superpower, because most of us don't even know it. And that's why we need to talk about purpose many times. And some of us do know it, like a few months ago, I was talking to a whole group of chiropractors, and they're very passionate about what they do, about helping people. So I think they found their purpose, helping people with their health. But at the same time, 90% of them were barely tapping into that superpower, right? So I need to make them think bigger and better and, reach more people and help more people, instead of just waiting for that $40 check from the insurance company because they did a mobilization, right?
Yeah.
You gotta get out of that comfort zone. You gotta think much bigger. And so kind of that's what I've been up to with my life, is help people unleash their superpowers. So my clients is usually a mix. I have many people. Currently, I have 2 cancer patients, a Parkinson's patient, an adrenal fatigue patient that I help. I don't have a brick and mortar clinic. I help them online, just like we're talking, and tell them what to do and make them accountable, and make them regain control of their health. So I help people with any type of medical diagnosis get back to normal. Then there's people that I help optimize their health, because we cannot have been diagnosed with anything and consider ourselves healthy. But we need to feel strong and vital and fit, and we need to be in control of our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. That's called optimal health. And then the third step is, once we're in optimal health, that would be the ideal foundation to practice biohacking. And biohacking is one of those very amorphous terms with many different definitions. But my definition is simple. It's upgrading the body, the mind, and life. And from a health point of view, it's objectively reversing your biological age. What that means is I believe today that everybody, not just the elite or not those with money, but every person, if they implement these biohacking strategies, that we easily can live to be 100 years old, but be able to do the things a 40, 50-year-old does. In other words, still be able to travel or hike or do whatever it is that you like to do. And that's what I mean with biological age. It's your lifespan. It's the quality of life. And so there's very simple foundational principles that if we implement those, I believe everybody can achieve that. And that's biohacking. But in order to biohack and your body to respond to that, you need to be in optimal health first. So you have to go from resolving your pain and being in optimal weight and getting rid of any medical condition to optimal health. And then your body will respond to, okay, now we can reverse our biological age and actually get younger. As our chronological age keeps on getting older, we can reverse that biological age. And so today I'm regarded an expert in biohacking. As you mentioned in the intro, I was featured on the Biohacker cover magazine. And so, that's what I've been up to, Anne.
Wow, you're a blessing to the people, I'll tell you that. I'm a health nut. I'm an alternative nurse and a certified health coach. And so I'm starting my Taming Diabetes Differently course, because if you do it the way modern medical says, you'll have it and always have it and get worse. And they're out having a drink with the doctor, the pharmacist, and the pharmaceutical company, all on your money. You're on 13 drugs, wondering when you're going to drop over dead because you're so miserable. So my point for anybody to heal, in my opinion, is got to be the attitude. Oh, poor pitiful me. It's just the way it is. Or darn, I got this going on. I'm going to beat it. So I'm 74 next month, and
Wow.
I'm going to live to 125.
Yes. And that's your blueprint. And I'm glad you brought up the mental aspect, because I just mentioned to you, there's these foundational principles. I got 7 foundations for biohacking. And guess what? Number one is the mindset. So when I get a cancer patient, that's where I start, because patients, especially, as you know, you're a nurse, we get labeled. You got cancer. You got Parkinson's. You're only going to live 1 year. And if you believe that, guess what? The doctor's going to be right?
Right.
So it's our belief system, right? And so it's very important that we give our clients the tools to change that belief system, because obviously we always are pulled back by our past experiences, and many times we label them as failures, and any negative wording will have a negative expression in real life, right? So with my cancer patients too, the first thing that I do is, first of all, we're not going to use that word cancer anymore, right? And we're not gonna be pulled back by what happened in the past. We're here right now, so we're gonna be pulled forward by the future. So let's talk about the future. Number one, we're gonna overcome this, and we're gonna go back to normal health, and we're gonna see your grandkids grow up, and you're gonna be there when they get married, and you're gonna be able to continue to hike or whatever it is that you like to do, and we're gonna paint that picture, and we're gonna be pulled forward. Why that? Because like you just said, that's the blueprint. And if you believe that you're going to overcome that cancer, or you believe that you're going to realize your dreams, or you believe that you're going to write the best piece of music ever, or the best book ever, whatever it is, then that's what's going to happen, right? But if there's any doubt in your mind that it's going to happen, then the universe has 2 options: failure or success.
Right.
If there's no doubt in your mind that you're going to be A, B, C, or D, or do A, B, C, or D, then the universe only has 1 option. So we really got to shift that mindset to, from doubt and disbelief to total belief. And the closer we get to total belief, the more likely that our thoughts and our beliefs are going to translate into our actual future, right? Into actions. And so especially with people that are afflicted with these terrible diseases and labeled wrongly, because that label is always there, consciously or unconsciously, and it just contributes to the negative outcome of those things, that we need to do that. And then, once they realize how powerful the mind can be, we as practitioners got to give them the tools, right? Visualization, manifestation, meditation, gratitude journaling, all these mindfulness practices that we need to incorporate in a daily routine, just like exercises. The brain is still a muscle. And so if we practice, it doesn't have to be hours, even if it's 10 minutes in the morning, that we really visualize or manifest or meditate. In my case, the best thing that works for me is breath work. Because when I do breath work, I'm so focused on my breath that everything else clears my mind. And that's how I get into a meditative state, right? So whatever it is that works for you or for the client is what they need to make a daily habit. Because as you said, the mind not only controls the body and health and disease, but also, is the blueprint to our future, to our goals, to our failure or our success.
Are you or someone you know dealing with blood sugar issues like diabetes? You can lower, even reverse these issues. I lowered my A1C from 5.9 to 4.9 in just 6 weeks. My doctor was impressed. I'm a nurse, certified health coach, and educator. Gift yourself or another with this course, Taming Diabetes Differently. Change your life and theirs. Contact Anley Master at tamingdiabetes@yahoo.com or call 972-948-9976 and be sure to leave a message. My personal thing, what I like to do in the morning, I like to take my coffee, go outside, sit on the porch, and admire God's kingdom with my cats.
Yeah, there you go.
And I sit there and I, just chill and think. And I read something one time where you give gratitude as soon as your feet hit the floor and you get up, give gratitude and thanks to God for a beautiful day that's going to be. And I did that one day, and it's like, wow, I'm not good at it every day, right? But I tried it, and wow, that day was just gorgeous. Everything about it went great. And
You set a positive tone from the first
yes,
second.
yes, and I think we've all had trauma in our life, what we perceive as trauma, whether we got spanked a lot or abused or whatever by whoever. So you can wallow in the self-pity of that, or I chose instead to think everything that happened to me in my life, I thank God for, because it educated me. I can relate to that person, because I've had this happen, or seen it happen, been involved somehow. And now I write about it. Now I speak about it.
Yeah.
Now I have podcasts. And I didn't start this until I was introduced to it at 71. And I thought, so I got on the stage at 72 years old, March. And and I was doing my speech and I froze. But where do you go from that? I could have just said, oh, all right, I'm a failure. No, I kicked myself and I beat myself up. And 2 weeks later, I kicked that twin out of my life and redid myself. Got short hair now, see?
Yeah.
And I used it. So I tell people, don't let what happened in your life use you. Use what happened. Use it.
Yeah.
So
exactly right. Your experiences are lessons, right? Because when I first came to the United States, I had to save $400. I didn't have much. I got knocked down many times. So my motto quickly became, I never lose, I win or learn. So when people reflect back, it's not trauma, it's not misery, it's not failure, it's a lesson.
Yes.
And so what did you learn from it, and how can you do better now, right? So it's how you look at things. You're 100% correctly. And so with that lesson, how can I be better? Or how can I help other people that are struggling with the same thing, right? Because I've been there. I know the pitfalls. I know what doesn't work, and I know what does work. So you can give them a shortcut with your experience. And that's what you're doing in your case. So again, ultimately, it may even lead you to your purpose, just like in your case, my case, because here you are, and without those experiences, you wouldn't be on stage, you wouldn't be doing podcasts, and obviously you find a purpose, and a purpose just simply means that you're doing something good for the world and you're passionate about it. You can't wait to get going in the morning versus, oh, I gotta go to an 8 to 5 job to collect a paycheck. And it's one of the first
I've been there.
Yeah, we've all been there, unfortunately. But that's what I sometimes ask, some of the people that really don't know if they're living their purpose. Well, it's simple to find out, because some people are doing well, even financially, and they're being able to pay their bills, and they got a family, they got a nice house, but it doesn't mean you're living your purpose. So many times I say, when you get up in the morning, before you actually get up, but you're awake, ask yourself, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, I have to get up, I have to get to work, I have to do this, I have to do that? Are you thinking, I get to get up, I get to get to work, I get to do this, I get to do that? And unfortunately, most people fall in that first category, right? Meaning you're not living your purpose. You're not passionate about it. You're not ready to start the day and do something that gives you fulfillment, because that's what it's about. Something that gives you fulfillment, that brings you one small incremental step closer to your dreams and your goals and your passions, right? And so when they realize they're not living their purpose, we need to kind of figure out what their purpose is. And purposes can change throughout your life phases, for sure. There can be more purposes that you fulfill, but let's find out what your passions are. And then usually I do a few exercises with them, or talk to them and ask them some questions. And sometimes we can reveal their purpose in a matter of one conversation. And sometimes it takes a week, but it doesn't take long for us to reveal what their true passions in life are. And once we find them, it doesn't mean they have to suddenly drop their responsibilities and their job and stop paying their bills and taking care of their family. But what it does mean is, what we can do is we can slowly start working on it. And so with my clients, we just free up 1 hour per day. And most people say, oh, I don't have a free hour. Oh, yes, you do. Because when we go through the day, there's many hours that we suddenly free up. Whether you come home, you're tired and you sit in the couch, or whether you're Netflixing every evening and wasting your time in front of the TV. or whether you are, because I had a businessman, oh, Mike, I'm working all the time. I really don't have any time to do what you're telling me to do. I said, okay, let's talk about your business. I said, how many meetings did you have today? Oh, 2. How long were they? An hour each. I said, why do you schedule hour meetings? Can you guys, professionals, not make a decision about a topic in 15 minutes? So from now on, schedule your meetings in 15-minute increments and do yourself and everybody else on a call of favor. And so I freed up an hour and a half just with one conversation, right? So then the idea becomes, yes, you're doing A because you're responsible and you got to pay bills and you got a family, but let's work 1 hour a day on your true passion, whatever that is. And it's amazing that if you do that on a daily basis, how quickly you make significant strides. And maybe at one point in life, you can make that transition and still be responsible and pay your bills, you know? So that's what it's all about.
I'm an example of that because I worked 33 and a half years in the factory. And I, at 31, took a leave of absence and went into Iowa Army National Guard. Best thing I ever did for me.
Yeah.
Because whenever I think I can't do something, Sarge does. Well, then I got bored in the factory again with all the chatter and gossip and stuff. And I wanted more and I knew it, but I wasn't real sure. But ever since I was 8 years old, because I was a sickly kid, I wanted to be the nurse that helped me when I was sick.
Yeah.
So then I decided to start taking the prereqs, you know, just a class here and there, whatever. And I did that. And I think, no, that might have even been before I went in the service, come to think of it. But anyhow, like psychology, oh, that was an interesting one because I'm so fascinated by the brain and I love my DNA. And I remember I was asking questions and the instructor's looking at me and I have an A. And then I have a B and he's looking at me and I said, oh, Ann, you better shut up because you're not going to pass this course. So I ended up, I think he was threatened by this little old person coming in, which told me a lot about him.
Yeah.
But I ended up going to school full-time, working full-time. I was married to a complete asshole narcissist and I endured it all. Graduated in December and God put everything in place for me. I worked for Square D at the time. And they had a program, they would reimburse you for your education as long as it pertained to business. So there was one that was a metronics. I think I had to take metrics class anyway. Well, we don't have. And I said right there on the door, Adam. You know, so, you know, if you want it, you go for it hard enough. Right. So anyhow, I got my license February of 95, and my father was diagnosed with glioblastoma March of 95. He was my first patient. Yeah. And I felt honored that I was able to help my father and the family in that respect and look after him and all. But my I was doing this kind of stuff and worked as an allergy and mental health and some of this stuff here and there. And then I got that opportunity in 71 that I said yes to. Yeah, that's great. Because if I'd have said no, I'd have always wondered what woulda, coulda, shoulda. So with my life experience, I want people to know I'm a late bloomer and I'm proud of it because I worked towards little baby steps and sometimes they were great big. And I had a lot of pressure on me and all that. And I think I was that close to a nervous breakdown that last year, but I made it. And sometimes that's where you need to go in order to get that drive to change your situation, to get out of that comfort zone, you know? Yeah, when that flood is coming, are you going to stand there and let it wash you away or are you going to jump to that high rock, climb it if you have to or whatever? Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. No, that's great. Great story. Yeah. Oh, keep going because you are fascinating. Oh, well, I mean. Tell me about the stem cells because somebody else I know does something with stem cells and I understand Tony Robbins does too. That he goes. Well, yes. I was a CEO of a stem cell company 2005, 15, 19. We did a lot of athletes, NFL players, but also we did over 1,000 patients and obviously stem cells, according to a lot of scientists, are the future of medicine. So stem cells basically repair and regenerate any damaged tissue, whether that's a liver cell, a pancreas cell, whether it's a muscle, a tendon, an eye cell, it doesn't matter. It is able to stimulate all bioactive molecules that are necessary to get the repair job done, basically. But as we age, just like with our hormones, for example, that's what people understand, the quantity and quality of stem cells drastically declines, and that's that's when we don't heal easily anymore, and that's when things don't work anymore. And normally the body fixes it, but now it stops fixing it because we don't have those stem cells in high quantity and quality anymore. And so stem cell therapy, just like with your hormones,
because if your hormones decline as you age, and we get in perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopausal, the hormones are out of whack, right? It's a genetic programming, but if we do bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, or if we do stem cell based therapies, then we actually going beyond our genetic programming. And that's actually a true definition of biohacking, right? Is increasing that lifestyle by replacing our natural hormones with bioidentical ones, or by getting, high quality, high quantity stem cells in our body because our body's not producing it anymore. So that's where stem cells come in. Now, obviously, in the United States, many times when things actually do work very well, they immediately get banned. And you immediately can't use them anymore because it's a threat to the big pharma. And so then many times you got to go outside of the country, or you got to do an off-label procedure, which is not a bad thing, because if a doctor recommends vitamin C, that's still off-label. And I always laugh about it when people say, oh, so Dr. Mike, if I do an IV of stem cell, it's off-label. So it's like a bad word. I said, look here, there's millions of neuropathy patients in the United States. And guess what? Every doctor prescribes them. Anticonvulsants, anti-seizure medication, like gabapentin and Neurontin and those types of medications. Guess what? That's off-label. These medications were not designed to treat neuropathy. They're for seizures. So when a conventional doctor does something, it's okay. But when everybody else recommends vitamin C or an infusion of IV and it's off-label, it's suddenly, oh my God, we're doing something illegal, right?
Right.
But, so in the United States, stem cells really can help with any musculoskeletal issue, whether it's arthritis of your knees or low back pain or degeneration of the back, or plantar fasciitis or Achilles tendonitis or rotator cuff tears. It really works very well. Of course, stem cells have a much broader application, but then we have to go again off-label. So if we would infuse or do an infusion of stem cells, we would have a great impact on the lungs and the heart and the organs. We also would have an impact on the brain, because a small percentage actually will get through the blood-brain barrier. We also could inject stem cells in the nose, but that's very painful because we did it with a Parkinson patient. But then obviously they get into the brain much easier. And then we even have applications where we can inhale stem cells, because then we're talking about stem cells getting into the brain. So we're talking about Parkinson's, MS, or traumatic brain injury, or a stroke. It can be very helpful. Now today, I just last week finished a course to have the highest qualification in hydrogen therapy. So hydrogen now is becoming a very popular molecule. It's actually the smallest molecule on the planet. It's the number one element in the table of Mendeleev, right? The table with all the elements, because it's the lightest element and it's not charged. Well, because when we talk about vitamin C and D and zinc and all those things that everybody learned about during COVID, right? Yes, there's powerful antioxidants and we need them, but they are charged, meaning they cannot enter the cell. Hydrogen can enter the cell and protect our DNA, RNA, our proteins, our mitochondria. So drinking hydrogen water, but now even inhaling hydrogen with many of my patients has made drastic improvements. Anybody with any type of a gut problem, Crohn's disease, celiac disease, irritable bowel, in 3 weeks, I can fix that with the assistance of hydrogen. Anybody with any condition in the brain, like we just mentioned, a stroke or MS or Parkinson's, that hydrogen starts protecting the cells immediately. So, I just have a liver failure patient last week and another cancer patient. And so now I'm combining stem cell-based therapies with hydrogen inhalation and hydrogen water, and we're getting great results. But even if you're not sick, I just ordered a unit for myself, because it's about prevention, right? It's about protecting your cells. It's about repairing your cells. It's about repairing your DNA, because we cannot completely prevent the onslaught of all the toxins in our environment unless we go live in a pristine area away from civilization. We can't. And it's not just the food that we take in, the man-made foods and drinks and preservatives and the colorings and all that bad stuff, but it's the electromagnetic frequencies and radiation and the artificial light and the microwave and the appliances and the routers. And so this is an invisible threat that really research has shown clearly, even though it's called non-ionizing radiation, has a detrimental effect on our health, even on a cellular and DNA level. So we need to obviously mitigate as much as we can, but at the same time be proactive and take in the nutrients and the whole foods and the supplements that will repair the DNA that has been damaged.
Yeah. Question on the stem cells. Do you believe it's possible to have them on patches that you put a patch on?
I'm not a proponent of that because I really don't. Again, our skin is supposed to be a great barrier, right? So not sure on how they are properly absorbed in our bloodstream, but it's possible. I'm
Yeah.
not the engineer.
It may be effective, but not as effective as doing it your way.
Well, yeah, if you put it straight in via an IV, obviously it
obviously.
cannot be more direct, right? But I would say for your listeners too, there's many outdated procedures out there, and they're usually practiced by your regular orthopedic doctors and MDs again, because they believe wrongly, because scientific research shows the opposite. They believe that harvesting stem cells from your adipose tissue to a liposuction, or from your bone marrow to a painful, intervention is the way to go. But anybody with common sense, and let's finish with common sense because that's the name of your podcast. Even these doctors don't have common sense. How would it make it any sense to get stem cells from your own body and then simply relocate them and thinking they're going to work? Again, research shows clearly that as we age, the quantity and quality of stem cell drastically declines. So when they get them from your fat cells or from your bone marrow, they can't inject them directly because they didn't get enough stem cells. Because again, because of your age. So they let you come back later that day or the next day. Because why? Because now they need to amplify, they need to multiply these poor quality stem cells, and they need to multiply them, in the laboratory. But it's like having an original piece of paper and making a copy and then making a copy on a copy. And ultimately, you can't read it, right? So it's very low quality. So many times, these providers will brag about the fact they're going to inject millions of stem cells. But people need to realize that if they come from your own body, yes, there are millions of stem cells, but it's like a plumber that needs to fix the roof and they don't have a ladder and they can't climb up the ladder. Nothing's going to happen no matter how many million stem cells you have, because the quality is very low. So when we're talking about stem cells, you need to make sure you have stem cells from birth tissue. You need a combination of Wharton's jelly, which is a part of the umbilical cord, because that's the highest bioavailable source of mesenchymal stem cells. But stem cells by themselves can't do anything, just like somebody who needs to fix your roof without their tools and a ladder, nothing's going to happen, whether they're a licensed roofer or not. So these stem cells need other molecules, bioactive molecules, such as cytokines and collagens type 1, 2, and 3, and exosomes. And so when you combine the Wharton's jelly of the umbilical cord with placental tissue, which is your scaffolding and your collagens, etc., and some amniotic fluid, which is rich in exosomes, then we have all the components that are necessary to repair and re-engineer any damaged tissue. So, and that's really what we need for successful stem cell-based therapies, is making sure that all those components for tissue engineering are available. And if we combine placental tissue and umbilical cord tissue, in other words, birth tissue, then we have the best approach and the best product.
Now, I was never blessed with children, but my mentality nowadays, knowing that it comes from the placenta, okay? So you go in, you give birth, and I had done an interview with another doctor several months ago, and he said, you don't cut the umbilical cord right away. You let that DNA go back and forth through the cord to the baby and the mom, right? So they take it and throw away the placenta. No, they don't. They use it for things like you're talking about.
Now they do, yeah. They test it and make sure it's 100% safe and there's no transmittable diseases. And once they pass the test, they're donated to the American Tissue Bank Association, and the tissue bank basically prepares them and sells them to manufacturers of these types of products.
So my point being, I pay for that delivery, and they're taking a part of my body and selling it, making money off it in the long run.
Yes.
And we live here in San Antonio. We have a bunch of deer and they give birth, right? Well, what does an animal do with the placenta? They eat it.
Yes, because that's an instinct. And I'm
Yes,
glad
yes.
you bring that up, because Mother Nature wants you to eat the placenta or have it, because that animal just went through trauma and the tissue needs to be repaired and regenerated. And by eating the placenta, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's that common sense,
Yes, that's right. Mother Nature tells the truth.
Oh,
That's
you
what,
bet.
that's what I tell people all the time. It's probably a good closing of the podcast too. It's like, no matter what the doctor says, no matter what you read or hear, I always tell people, sit down and think about what animals in the wild do. And whatever animals in the wild do, that's going to be much closer to the truth about health than anything else, right? Do they wear shoes? No. Why? Because they're grounding, right?
Oh, yeah.
How many times a day do they eat? Okay. Once, right? What do they do after they eat? Well, they go in the shade and they rest for hours, because digestive efforts are important and they're not going to be running around while they're digesting, right? And what do they drink? Well, they all drink water. So they don't drink coffee, they don't drink tea, they don't drink Red Bull, they don't drink
Yep.
juices, they drink water. Guess what, right? They even don't drink milk. As soon as they come off the mother's breast, there's no need for that dairy from another animal species it's such a perversion. If you think about it, we're drinking milk. It's intended for the young of another species. There's no purpose to that, right? So Mother Nature, thinking about what do animals in the wild do, often gives you the truth about health.
Right, it does. And that's why I was raised in the country, and I never really went to church, not until I was a teenager and at times, but I learned my relationship with God and the universe through nature, through the observation. When the leaf curls up, that means something. And, just all this stuff. My father was brilliant because he taught us that stuff. And Pusley, I forget what the real name of it is. I pulled it by bags and everything. And now I read how it's such a healthy food, so I grow it.
If Mother Nature grows it, there's something to it, right?
Right. It's medicinal so many ways. I am just so fascinated with you. I would love to be in contact with you, for that matter. But I would like to have you back sometime for another podcast.
Anytime. And you can reach out to me directly or through the people that put us together, no problem. My website for your listeners is biohackingunlimited.com. All my books are there, mentorship programs are there. You can sign up for a free newsletter. Everything's on the website, podcasts, things like that. So biohackingunlimited.com. My phone number's on there. You can contact me through there. If you need help, there's a way you can schedule a free 20-minute Zoom call with me to see if I can help you out or give you some answers to your personal problems. So only one place, biohackingunlimited.com.
Okay. Well, it was my pleasure to host you, and I learned so much. And I'm blessed that people like you are in the world making it a better place. So,
well, you're doing the same thing. Without you, we can't get the word out. So I appreciate
that's my purpose.
your time and your effort too.
Okay, well, thank you, doctor. And thanks to all you listeners for tuning in today. And I know you learned something very beneficial. So until next time, toodaloo. Thank you for tuning in to my Common Sense Living podcast today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm sure you learned something new. Please leave a kind review and share this episode with a friend. And be sure to subscribe yourself. You'll find me on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And don't forget, we'll be here again next week with another insightful episode of Common Sense Living. I can hardly wait.